And if you kind of look around over here, we have many buildings and many parking lots and much pavement. And then if you look at the terrain here, it does this. It all channels down toward that tree line. And it used to be one smooth, continuous slope that was mowed. And what it had additionally were, there was a drainage ditch here that led to a drain, a drainage ditch back there that led to a drainage ditch all the way in the back that led to a drain. And when our consultants came out and did their rain calculation, they said that these impermeable surfaces over here on a 100-year rain event collected 750,000 gallons of water in a single day. That was channeled then into the slope and into the drains and all the way down through one solitary 30-inch discharge point down in the trees. And then so on a really, really hard rain day, that turned that into a high intensity water jet, like a big fire hose. And that was, it was chopping out the sides, making erosion ditch, exposing the roots. Because the roots become exposed and the soil becomes unstable and it becomes a self-perpetuating problem and the erosion gets worse and worse. So we wanted to solve the erosion problem and contain the water on the property at the same time, because we were also, this water was running off before it had a chance to percolate down into the ground. So the first thing we did was quit mowing. We quit mowing, and that slows down everything that's coming across the non-permeable surfaces. And then the next thing we did was we brought out a big machine, a big D6 Caterpillar. And we built a system of what are called Berms and Swales, which are linear ditches and earthen berms, or earthen dams. The first one is right up here. You can hardly see it. It just looks like some bushes. And we put wood in that one. And that was just catching that first little bit of agricultural runoff that comes down from across the road on Howe Highway there. And we hugeled that. We put a bunch of dead wood in there because that dead wood articulates fungi that detoxify the soil. So that ag runoff, we start getting some detoxification there. Then this water runs down here, and the water that ran over here come into one depression right here. And this is kind of a natural swale, and they had a drain on it. We'll show you what we did with the drain. This was the drain. So we built a collar around it so that the water would have to actually come up this high before it spilled off into that drain. So we're holding the water longer. We want to slow it, stop it, spread it, sink it.
One of the things that this showed us early on was that there's a different viewpoint between an electrical engineer or somebody trying to control the water, and their view is to get it off the land as soon as possible. Whereas a permaculture value that honors water was to keep it and hold it and then sink it and then slowly spread it. So one of the reasons that we have this basin and then that collar is to try to hold the water long enough to where it can sink down and then spread, rather than race off and erode down by the cemetery. And when before I moved here, I met with some of the maintenance men, and Brett in particular says we have a real problem with erosion, and it was right down at the cemetery.
We got a rainy day so we can see it. It's coming down here, but it's no longer going down a drain. If we were to have a real deluge right now, even before it spilled over this, or at about the same time, you can't see it for the brush, but would come right to here. The water would then spill from here into the next swale. The next swale, same thing. Goes down in there, it would start to fill up, and then walk over here and look at the very next spillway. So before this would even spill over, it would come up about this high. So that water would stay here again, and that would percolate down. And then where I said the water would kind of come up to my belly button, right here is the spillway from there. So before it goes anywhere else, it's going to spill into the next swale, and I'll just sort of walk down it, and you can kind of... So So again, what this does is channels that water down, and we went with the lasers down through here so that the water slowly heads down that way, and at the end of it, all the way over in a long arc, it turns around and comes back through another long linear swale. And at the final one, we'll look at it in a minute, on the other side of the fence, we have the lowest swale of all, which is a basin that has a 250,000 gallon capacity. And there's an earthen dam, and we'll show you that there. One of the things that happens as we hold the water in the ground is the water level inside the ground starts to rise. And on the slope, what that does is it puts more water. It's on this slope, so as the water comes up, it starts providing water at higher and higher spring lines along that slope, and so it makes more water available for cultivation. And that's why we're using this for our agroforestry here. And you can look around and see where we've got our apples and plums and pears and peaches and nectarines and cherries and apricots planted all over the place. We've looked at 5, so we got the first little swale, then the 2 sort of circular swales, and then the 2 long linear swales, and then the last spillway down here goes into the largest basin of all. This is the one that holds around 250,000 gallons, and that earthen dam down there it's been planted up with willow trees right now, which are taking off. And in this area in here, we have about 400 companion plants, and you can't see them right now because of the high brush, but some young nut trees. We've got butternut and northern pecan. So eventually this will be full of large 60-70 foot nut trees down here. There's 19 or 20 nut guilds down here, they call them. The tree with its companion plants is a guild. And we had a big drain down here. I'll walk down there and kind of point it out, but we found a giant section of concrete culvert, and adhering to the reuse ethic, we said rather than build a collar, we just use that. There it is. So that was how we solved our erosion problem, and also provided some natural unattended irrigation